All right, Nelson and Dominic are back once again for Average Home Theater, and we're gonna do, I guess, another Star Wars video.
Well, it's part of our tradition.
Ah, I mean, I love Star Wars, okay, but all this extended universe stuff is, yeah, well, that's what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about Ahsoka, which everybody else and their grandma is talking about, I'm sure. But so I guess I'll lead off with it was okay. It wasn't. It wasn't bad, if that makes sense. Because like I felt that Obi-Wan was bad.
Okay.
Um, I felt that Boba Fett was bad in parts. It had some good parts in it.
Right.
Um, so this I didn't think was bad. It's just I guess because I don't watch cartoons, I just don't care about Ahsoka. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the fact that you said it's not bad, that's a pretty positive
That's
review.
progress. That's progress. In this world, for me to say something
Yeah.
Star Wars related is not
I
bad,
was like, wow, okay.
it's impressive. It's a step up.
Right. Yeah, and obviously this is Dave Filoni's baby. He was Lucas's protege, right? He came up doing the Clone Wars and the Rebels cartoons and things like that. So, he's kind of as close to Lucas as you can get because he was shadowed under Lucas before Lucasfilm was bought,
Hmm.
by Disney. So, I mean, this is like kind of as close as you can get. So, this is his first time on his own. He helped John Favreau with Mandalorian, but this is kind of him completely on his own. And overall, I liked the result. Like, was it a perfect show? No, but I think it as much as I love Obi-Wan, and I defended it before, as much as I love Obi-Wan, I think this one is more well done.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it's a better made. And it's handling a lot of the same material, right? It's very Jedi heavy. It's very prequel heavy at times.
Yeah, but the difference between this and Obi-Wan,
Hmm.
this does not mess up the lore of the original trilogy. Okay? That's Obi-Wan's biggest offender. They basically said, canon lore, who cares? We're gonna do this because we want Darth Vader and Obi-Wan on screen again. So that's my problem with
Hey,
Obi-Wan.
I am buying a Hot Toys figure of Hayden with the
That
cracked
was just nothing
helmet.
about money, bro. That was Johnny Football right there. It was nothing
Eh,
but money.
Hayden with the cracked helmet fighting Obi-Wan is awesome. I don't care.
Ah,
But anyway, we're here for Ahsoka.
yeah, because I'll,
So,
I'll shut this video off.
um, I love how Ahsoka starts. Like you get an opening crawl. It's a little different.
Hmm.
It doesn't pan kind of out. It's, right up in the front. It has like a red font. I love the music when it starts. I love the kind of catching up to where we're at, right? Basically, Ahsoka has apprehended Morgan, which was like that witch that was from Mandalorian season two.
Yeah,
So it kind of says,
I
hey,
actually remembered that. I was impressed that when I saw it, like, oh yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So that, and because that's been a couple years now, so since we got that, but it kind of starts off like that, and you don't get Ahsoka in the beginning. You get basically, I don't really see them as Sith. They're kind of more like dark Jedi or like
Well,
rogues for hire.
yeah, they're mercenaries because
Right,
they Thrawn. Look, there's spoilers here, so if you haven't watched the show,
right.
you might as well turn this off.
But
But
come back,
but
please.
come back and rewatch it. But Thrawn refers to them as mercenaries
Right.
a couple of times. So and Coy just said they're more like Ronin.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean I guess that's what it is because the whole time you're wondering what is Ray Stevenson's motivation?
Right.
Like what's he doing? What does he really believe?
Yes.
So it was a little bit of a mystery, and that was kind of neat. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we'll even know. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do
It's a shame
because he
because he was
passed.
awesome. Yeah.
So
Um,
I don't know. I mean, look, I don't think I'm gonna like the idea of recasting him because it's just gonna look weird. I mean, the man is so unique looking. He has a
mm-hmm.
glorious beard. He's like 6'5". How do you? And I don't know. So they're gonna have to kill him off or
Big
just
shoes to
write him
fill.
off.
Yeah, it's a shame too because but starting off, I like how it's called Ahsoka, but it's through their point of view. Like they call him Ray Stevenson's character's Balin, and then he has an apprentice and
Shin.
Shin, yes. And you start like from their point of view, and then they go onto the ship, right? It's very sorry to say it, but it's very reminiscent of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan starting off episode one, except this time you have two dark Jedi instead of two light Jedi. It's kind of because they do the same thing. They go on the ship,
Hmm.
they fight the stuff, right? It's kind of like an opposite of that, a mirroring. But him going through the hallway was cool, right? I
Yeah.
Jedi or Sith in hallways, you can never go wrong.
And he was a little stiff, but I found it, kind of, I
Right.
don't know, he wasn't as good at it
He
as,
wasn't as fluid.
right. It looked
Yeah.
kind of stiff, but still, you get the point.
Yeah, and he's also older, and we're in a time period where there's not a lot of Jedi, so that didn't bother me. But yeah, you're right, it was a little stiff. But man, his character, like, he's layered. He's not just a straight up, I want to take over. He has his ulterior motives for what he's doing. One of the best characters in the show, for sure.
Yeah. And I liked Shin. She's like bat crap crazy.
Yeah,
Like she's a little cuckoo cuckoo, you know?
yeah, she kind of reminded me like a little bit of like Michelle Pfeiffer Batman Returns. Like there's
Yeah,
some scrambled stuff going on in her head, right?
yeah, you're right.
So yeah, I kind of liked that.
Selena Kyle.
Yeah, Selena Kyle, yeah. Um, so that fight was cool. And then basically, um, kind of my background, I love original trilogy. I also grew up in the prequel era. The cartoons, I haven't watched all of them, but I've watched 15 or 20. I've watched like a lot of the key episodes, so I can kind of appreciate where they're going. In some ways, it is kind of like a Rebels continuation because you meet Hera, which is the green skin uh, rebel fighter,
I think Dave Filoni has a thing for her, even though that's Ewan McGregor's wife.
which
He
is
sh
kind of a
he
cool
sure
thing.
does get a lot of back shots of
Yeah,
her
that's
walking in front of the camera.
I saw all kind of memes and
Yeah,
stuff on
oh man,
Facebook
it's
about
great.
or on
But
TikTok
I
about
find that interesting because no other characters get the rear
that.
treatment.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I saw a lot of stuff on that too.
The
Um,
plot. I watch Ahsoka
right.
for the plot. Yeah.
But so it starts off from there, and basically they take the witch back, and this whole thing is centered around finding a map that leads to Grand Admiral Thrawn.
MacGuffin alert.
Yeah, that is the MacGuffin, and what they're trying to do is basically get Grand Admiral Thrawn from the I think they call it the unknown regions or uh to bring him back, to bring the Empire back together. Because the Empire's in shambles, right? Because the Rebellion won. This is a few years after Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. This is around the same time of Mandalorian. So he's kind of like the dark side's only hope at kind of bringing things back together like it once was.
So why are there MacGuffins? Why all of a sudden is Star Wars MacGuffin dependent?
Yeah,
Is it lazy writing? Is it like, well, okay, there's a map. I mean, there's this little thing that makes a map.
I mean in a way, but this map thing is handled way better than it was in sequel trilogy, the one to Luke,
It's
because we
still
still never found out who made the map to Luke, you know?
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. At least this one is like it's a map basically to the unknown regions, and they know Thrawn is there.
Just go
So,
look for him.
well, the
Just
thing
go
is,
look
it's in
for
another
him.
galaxy, so it's a map to get there. It didn't bother me here as much as it bothered me in sequel trilogy. It wasn't as bad. And to be fair, in episode 4, R2D2 is a walking map, and that's why they're out. They did it better, but he's still a map.
That was stolen. That was stolen plans given for somebody to hide. Not just, hey, I'm gonna go hide. I don't want anybody to find me, but just in case, here's a map.
That's true. The R2 he was a map of the Death Star, but not like a
Right.
map to the Death Star. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that.
That's not the
Yeah.
same thing. That wasn't a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
That was called plot.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. A look, it's like the cousin of it. It's a little bit. Little bit. Little bit.
Mr. Apologist over here.
But anyway, so Ahsoka, all right. I liked the series more as it went on. The first couple episodes, it was taking me a little bit
Hmm.
because Ahsoka does a lot of this.
Oh, now look, it's funny. There's a Spirit Halloween. You know,
Uh-huh.
they're taking the costumes and doing the Spirit Halloween costumes or
Right.
whatever. And it says like what do you call them? Bracers for arm crossing and stuff like that. Because I mean, that's
Yeah.
literally all she does.
No, she does a lot of that and like she's very stoic.
And it doesn't help that Rosario Dawson is not exactly the greatest actress of all time. And I don't know, she doesn't pull off the mysterious, um, stoic character off very well. She just looks like she doesn't know what she's doing to me.
I mean,
Eh,
I like her. She
eh.
looks like Ahsoka too.
She does look, I'll give you
Yeah.
that. She looks the part. It's just Rosario Dawson is not a good actress, so she doesn't play it
Shots
very
fired.
well. She's just not. I mean, everything Rosario Dawson is in, it's like, you know, she's okay. I mean, she's not the worst I've ever seen,
Right.
but I mean, she's not bad like John Cena, but I mean, she's not great or anything. So that doesn't help this whole show is that Rosario Dawson is just eh,
I hear ya.
eh.
I mean, she doesn't bother me. I like her, but I mean, she is very stoic in the beginning, just kind of a lot of standing around, and it took a while, but it gets better because she kind of finds her mojo later on
Hmm.
from a certain somebody, and she gets a little bit more awakened and active and more like in the moment. So that's a little bit in the script because she gets better as it goes on. She's not doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
It's the first couple. And then Sabine, I was not liking her at
Yeah.
first.
Okay. Yeah.
So kind of how Sabine, I was like, okay, so she's too cool to go to the ceremony. She's gonna ride speeder bikes, which the sound effects were from Return of the Jedi, so that was
Hmm.
cool. But she's I'm like, I know like Ezra got trapped and you're all upset about it and like woe is me, but come on, like get with it. And then once she started getting with it, I liked her a lot more at the end. But in the beginning I didn't like her. She was annoying the crap out of me.
Yeah. I mean, she was just meh the whole time for me.
Yeah,
It just, I don't know. Of course, they made it look like it was all part of the big plan. Oh, your gamble worked when she decided to cooperate with
yeah.
Balin or whatever. And I find it hard to believe that she was that smart, but you know, whatever. It's Star Wars. But
Well,
I just I don't know. Her character is very just yeah,
yeah.
not impressive. But oh, I can tell you, season two, she's gonna come back and she's gonna be a badass. There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Well, she was they did plan early on that she was selfish. So when she has an opportunity to go after Ezra, but it might bring Thrawn back, she takes it and gives him the map. I kind of bought that. I'm like, she would do that.
Right.
She just wants to see him. She doesn't really care about
Oh
the
yeah,
universe.
screw the universe.
Yeah,
You know, everybody's gonna die or everything's gonna be
right.
taken over, but that's okay.
Well,
Because
I
I want to
mean,
go see Ezra.
yeah, I mean, I don't agree with what she did, but it made sense for who they set up. And then as it goes on, she grows on me, but I did not like her at first. Sorry.
Yeah.
I did not like her at first. Um, and then from there we kind of um the plot continues to go on and there's this big mystery about what's going on and they fight Balin a little bit, right? When they get to the planet to get the map. And then Ahsoka gets wiped out by Balin and falls off a cliff,
Hmm.
right?
There we
And
go.
come on. Come on, man. That brought me back 20 years ago. That
That's the problem.
But would you agree that he's better here?
Hmm. Yeah, he's obviously a little bit better.
Dude, you don't understand how much praise that is. That's amazing.
I wasn't like rolling my eyes at his performance.
Right.
I was a little like, well, God, here we go, Anakin Skywalker, you know, because we gotta, yeah, Anakin. But yeah, I mean, it was all right. I mean, if you're, you know, I mean, did she die? Did she
S-
technically die?
So the way
Did
I
she go?
was,
Is that purgatory? Like, what is it?
well, so technically that realm he was in, it's from Rebels, it's the world between worlds.
Yeah, I knew
It's
that.
it's basically like a junction point to where it's kind of like a map in like not a map. I shouldn't say map in this, but it's basically like a a railway or like a road in the stars, and you can go into different points of time through that. It's kind of like the circuits of time. And, that's how he's able to go into all those different eras with her. But it's also kind of like a purgatory too, because Anakin, I believe that's Force Ghost Anakin, he's kind of in the netherworld, and he basically grabbed her before she died. That's what I got out of it.
Okay.
So she's kind of got saved, and he teaches her one last lesson. And after this lesson, she's less stoic and she's more with it and she's not as depressed. Um, but I mean, seeing Hayden in the Clone Wars armor, taking her through the Clone Wars, and
Yeah, the visuals were cool.
that was
I
cool,
did enjoy
man.
seeing the
Yeah,
visuals.
yeah.
Um, Hayden Christensen doing his little lightsaber thing was neat. You know, his
Hmm.
little signature moves
Right, where
that
he
he
does it behind the
does.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and one thing I did, and I told producer Nick this because he hasn't watched it. He's still on the fence if he's even going to. I did enjoy most of the lightsaber, which there's a bunch. There's like a lightsaber fight in every episode, pretty much. So I
yeah.
did enjoy that. I thought the choreography and stuff was done pretty well,
Hmm.
you know.
And that's one of the things like is better about the prequels is that choreography. Like
Yeah.
the prequels and in this, they do it way better than the sequels.
Hmm.
Original trilogy was its own thing because it was not in the height of all this stuff. But that was cool. And then I like the religious aspects of Star Wars, right? Like how, the good side goes on and they're like a spirit looking over like Anakin is. And there was rumors early on before they made The Force Awakens that they flirted with the idea of Anakin being good and evil, right? In the netherworld, kind of being able to go back and forth. And I never liked that idea, but they do it here, and I like it
Hmm.
because the way I interpret it is Anakin's a good. He's on the good side. He's a spirit. He's forever changed. He's good now. But Ahsoka, in her mind, cannot get over the fact that he was
That he
evil,
turned like that.
that
Yeah.
he turned. So when he's trying to teach her, and she's in her head, she can't get away from the fact that he was evil and killed kids and all that. And he goes, fine. So he turns that side of himself on to get her attention. I loved that.
Hmm.
I loved that he turned that side on. So it was kind of like he's still good, but he's showing his fury just to come on. Okay, yeah, I know I screwed up. Let's move on. I love that. And then you get Anakin with the red saber, which you never really got except for one shot when he took Dooku's saber. So that was cool. You get the flips of the Vader outfit, and then he's in his regular. I mean,
Yeah,
all
like I
that
said,
was well
the
done.
visuals were
Yeah,
really good in it. It was very neat
yeah,
seeing
that
it,
was
seeing the
fun.
battlefield scenes and stuff. It
Yeah,
was neat to see clone troopers with armor
right.
instead of CGI clone troopers.
That's true. Yeah.
I think that's the second time you see him. I think you see him in Mandalorian
Mm-hmm.
when Grogu is having some flashbacks. You see some actual, it's 501st
Yes.
guys
Yes.
that's in it.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so, I did enjoy that.
No, that was cool. And that was a kind of like a cool like segue. And then after that, the next episodes after that introduced Thrawn.
Yeah. Man, look, that introduction when they showed all those stormtroopers,
Yeah.
um, I'm not gonna lie, there was a situation going on down here. A little rocket in my pocket because that was awesome. Seeing the battle, um, basically the injuries and or
Hmm.
the damage to the armor where they filled it in with gold to
That was
repair their
awesome.
armor and all that stuff. That was great. And that
Yeah.
that goes back to, is it Japanese where they used to, is it Japanese or Chinese, but I think
Uh-huh.
it's Japanese where they would repair their armor with gold and it was like you learn, Nick said something about like they learn from their mistakes and
Yeah.
um it's to show that they've been in battle and they've overcome, that symbolism like that
I
is
love
what
that.
it goes
I love
back
that.
to.
And also like they even did that with pottery, like when something would break, they would fuse it back together and the cracks became like the standout.
There you go.
And I loved that. And that's going back to like Star Wars was heavily influenced by westerns and samurai.
Mhm.
And that's going back to that side.
That was cool stuff.
Yeah, so that was great.
Captain Enoch with his little gold face, which
Yeah.
I didn't realize they modeled that after his THX movie. There's a character in the THX in the George Lucas
Oh, I didn't
THX
think
movie
about
that has the
that.
same face, and that's where they got that from apparently. So I thought
That's
that was neat
cool.
because at first
Yeah.
I was like, it's cool and all, and he looks awesome, but why? What's the deal with the face?
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah.
still cool.
No, very cool. And what I loved about this is that it really feels like Thrawn has a remnant of the Imperial Army.
Yeah,
Like he has one Star Destroyer, it's extremely battered, but kind of put together with some of the gold. His troops battered, kind of pasted back together, and it really feels like a remnant. Like in Return of the Jedi, they wiped out the Empire for the most part, but there's still going to be little pockets that they have to
right.
take care of.
Like at the beginning of Mandalorian, first few episodes, you
Hmm.
see remnant
Yeah,
stormtroopers.
and they look rough too.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, and Thrawn. So, my favorite Star Wars book is Heir to the Empire, and that's where I first read Thrawn in. He comes across on screen just like he does in the book. Like, he's very methodical, he doesn't get angry, he's very
Yeah,
strategic.
a couple of times I had a hard time understanding what he was saying.
Yeah, he's very soft spoken.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's got the blue skin, the red eyes. He's very, it first shows him on screen, like that's the best they've done, I think, as a villain.
And it's the same guy who does the voice.
Yes, from Rebels.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's the best they've done with a Star Wars villain since the Lucas era, like easily. They should keep this guy around for a while. Um, I love everything about like him coming on in the witches. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, that's the first time I see anything like that in Star Wars. So I was
Yeah,
like,
it was
we have
different.
witches now. I mean,
Yeah,
it's whatever. Look, at this point with this story,
yeah,
I don't really care. They
right.
can do whatever they want.
Yeah,
I just was looking for something, you know, cool to see on screen, and
yeah,
I got my stormtroopers. So
yeah. And well, and you get the impression he mentions that they've helped him, so obviously those witches are
mhm.
what put the stormtroopers back together and all this other stuff for him.
Yeah, because they
Um,
use their the red whatever
yeah,
sash
that lights up and all that. Yeah,
or the red material is what's holding a lot of it together. Or
right.
so apparently that has something to do with them. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a different kind of thing. The witches thing, they're from another galaxy. So, that in my mind, that kind of makes sense. And what did you think of the robot that travels with Ahsoka?
I like him.
I like
I
him,
like him.
right?
Yeah, he made me chuckle a couple of times.
He's kind of like a smart like a C-3PO that's more
Yeah,
composed.
a little smarter.
Yeah,
Yeah, because C3PO comes off as kind of dumb sometimes,
and goofy.
goofy. Yeah.
Yeah,
This one he seems like he's got his stuff together. So,
yeah,
but he
I
also
like it.
makes some jokes that are pretty funny.
Uh-huh. And I like how in one of the episodes when they're traveling with the Purgles with the space wells, and she's like, "Tell me a story of that," and he goes, "A long time ago," and that was
Oh yeah.
cool. That was
Well, since you mentioned it,
uh-huh.
the in my opinion, which people who love all this stuff are not gonna like, but I think the space whales might be the dumbest thing I've ever seen in Star Wars. I do not understand. Look, space whales, fine. In the cloud, whatever. But rocket booster butts, not okay with.
That's okay.
I think that is, okay, look, my suspension of disbelief can only go so far.
Yeah.
And space whales that can travel like that and in the manner that no, no, no. The way they start and stop just like a spaceship and like,
Okay, yeah. That I can
no,
kind of
like
see what you're saying on that part.
that was completely ridiculous to me. That is, to me, that was the absolute worst part of all of this. And you're never going to convince me that it's cool because it's not. Um, but whatever. Like I said,
Well, I think the bigger problem with them is that you don't know where they're going to go and they end up at the planet.
mhm.
So,
Like, yeah, I mean, you have to chart your travel
right.
because you don't want to end your travel real quick, boy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we learned that in the first Star Wars movie
Uh-huh.
ever that everything has to be charted.
Right.
Your route. And they broke that rule in Rise of Skywalker, where Poe just kept,
Light speed skipping.
yeah, light speed skipping. Okay, so I guess space whales can do that too. They don't need to worry about a supernova or an asteroid or
Right.
whatever else everybody else, because they're whales. So they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
So the
well,
rules have suddenly changed that were established in 1977.
that to me, like the well thing didn't really bother me, but what I did not like was that, like how you don't know where they're gonna end up. Unless she's maybe using the force, but that might be a cop out. That might be a cop out.
When
But
all else
anyway,
fails, use the force.
um, but let's see. Moving on from that though, how did you think of the wrap up? How did you think how it ended?
Well, I didn't like Ezra.
Okay, yeah, we need
I
to talk
thought
about
that
him.
the
Okay,
guy didn't play the part well. I
okay,
didn't believe it. His physicality was not there. He looked
okay.
awkward in his fight scene. So the whole Ezra thing for me,
I
I was very underwhelmed. I was waiting to see somebody awesome, and he was not. He was not awesome. They tried to make him that,
yeah.
but I didn't buy it at all. So I don't know if it's the actor or I don't know. I
Were
just
you
didn't buy it.
expecting something more like
More like an
in
Obi-Wan
or
or
like in Rogue One, what was it, Donnie Yen when he played the blind
the blind,
Jedi
yes,
basically?
somebody that can
Something like
really,
that.
yeah, and I just, eh, he was,
Yeah.
eh.
I'm kind of
I didn't think he
I didn't have
was.
a strong feeling about him like that. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is the best ever, and I wasn't like he's horrible. I was kind of like
I
in the
mean,
middle
all
on
this
him.
build up, you're thinking, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, man, this dude's gonna be some kind of, some kind of baddie, and he's
Yeah.
just, yeah, he's just kind of like a goofball to me. And it's like, you expect me to believe this guy is like a badass Jedi? I just don't buy it.
Well, he is young, and I
But
wasn't.
he'd been in hiding for years, so how young is he?
Yeah.
He can't be that young.
No, I mean, I just in Rebels he was like almost like a kid, and then
Yeah,
this
but
is
this is
probably
way
like,
later, so he's
yeah,
got to be in his 30s. And the guy playing
something
him
like
is
that.
obviously in his 30s.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I just I did not care about Ezra at all. I just couldn't wait to see some freaking zombie stormtroopers.
That, yeah. And with him, like they still have time to build him up, but I did like how he's building the lightsaber on the ship.
Yeah,
I think that's the first time we've seen that in live action.
yes, it is.
And
Because you
aside
always
from,
hear about it, but you don't really
yeah,
see it.
I love how I was like, that's cool. Because the only other time I've seen it live action was a deleted scene from Return of the Jedi. Have you seen that scene?
Nope.
There's a deleted scene from Return of
Oh,
the Jedi, and Luke's building one in the
I
cave.
think I have seen it. I
That's
think I
that's
have seen
probably
it.
the
Yeah.
cool. And Vader's talking to him as he's building it. It's right before he goes to Jabba's. That scene, I guess they didn't put it in because it ruins the mystique of him coming into the palace.
Hmm.
But that was a cool scene. But yeah, seeing him build it, and then I like how he didn't run to a lightsaber at first. He he goes, no, I don't need it. Kind of like how Luke, didn't
And just force push
need one
everybody.
at first. Oh, that was kind of cool. I kind of like that. But then when they're all running around and Ahsoka has hers, Ezra has his, Sabine has hers, and they're fighting the zombie stormtroopers, like if you give me a few people holding lightsabers, it's hard to disappoint me.
Mhm.
Like that was
So
kind of cool.
So Thrawn's original, or the troopers that you see at first, those are regular just remnant stormtroopers. They don't become night troopers until they are the ones that volunteered, knowing that they're probably
Hmm.
going to die and then rise from the dead, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I can see that. That's what I was thinking too.
Because I
Yeah.
heard people talking about night troopers way before any of the episodes dropped and that they're undead. So, but they weren't undead until Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine killed them, and then they rose them from the dead.
Yeah, I could see that. 'Cause yeah, it's
Because
very, yeah,
before you could tell they were still alive
right.
because they acted completely different when they were. So I guess he
Yeah.
named them night troopers knowing that they were probably gonna die and that they were gonna
It's like
have
a
to rise
suicide
from
mission.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and you Thrawn has limited options, and like he has the witches there. Like if he uses them to stall them, that makes sense.
So what was all the stalling for? Why didn't they just leave 3 episodes prior? What were they, is that the big mystery, like what they were loading on? What is it they were loading on the ship that they
So
had to stay for?
it took time to load that stuff on the ship, and then I think that was the majority of it. And then also, I'm assuming he wanted to ditch them there and then leave. You know what I mean? He didn't want them following
Right.
him.
So what were they loading? Did they ever say?
They never, I don't
I'm
think they
thinking
really
I
say.
think it's bodies.
Yeah, because it kind of looked like
It
coffins.
looked like bodies. So
Yeah.
are they planning to make more night troopers, like raise people from the dead and make more night troopers? Is that his plan? It's going to be an army of night troopers?
I think it's got to be something a little more sinister than that because if it's just bodies, you could resurrect anybody. Maybe it's something with the witches. Like maybe it's more of them or something. I don't know. It's something with those bodies though, because he was waiting on getting those completely loaded.
Well, yeah, because you couldn't, they never really, you always saw the stormtroopers in the back loading them, but you never really got to see what
Yeah.
it was until the very end. They show the big shot and it looks like bodies. It doesn't
Yeah.
look like equipment.
No, it's probably like somewhat like it's probably bodies and some kind of supernatural element if I had to guess.
Okay.
Um, and obviously that'll be explained later. Oh, and I love the conversation he has with Ahsoka before he leaves. They never meet on screen.
Hmm.
You know, it's kind of reminds me of Star Trek 2 Wrath of Khan because they never meet on, those characters Khan and um Kirk never meet on screen together. It's always talking through things. Same thing with this. Like Thrawn never meets Ahsoka, but he says, "Because I knew your master, I knew you."
Hmm.
Like that's cool. Like so he knows her moves. Anakin was always he went too quick. Anakin didn't think it through. Like he suddenly jumped. Ahsoka did the same thing. She just kept going, trying to jump. She didn't think of a plan, like as far as like how to get on. She was just chasing him. So he goes, basically, because I know your master, I know what you're gonna do. It's a shame we never met in person. Peace. And then he left. I like that. I like
Yeah,
that
he
dialogue.
obviously thinks like they've done a good job of showing how he thinks two steps ahead
Yes,
to make sure that he doesn't quote unquote lose or whatever. So he's definitely a master strategist.
right.
Um, but I don't know, man. We'll see. But it's obvious now they're not doing a season two, right? Isn't this supposed to be a movie?
So
Like
I
there's going to be a movie wrap up between this and The Mandalorian?
so yes, there is going to be a movie for sure that Dave Filoni directs in this Mandoverse. There's for sure a movie, but there's also rumors of an Ahsoka 2 before the movie. So I think they were trying to see how well this did before they
Okay.
said anything. So it's either going to be a second season of Ahsoka, then the movie, or just the movie. Um, that'll move forward. But obviously, Thrawn is going to be the main threat, and it's going to center around that kind of plot
And no
line
matter what, Sabine is going to be trained by Ahsoka off screen,
because they get left on the planet.
and she's going to be uh, more effective
Yeah,
towards whatever happens. There
yeah,
were some
kind
people
of.
who asked, how come Ahsoka didn't go to Luke and said, "Hey, I need some help. We're going after Thrawn,
Yeah,
and I need somebody else who can help me." Why did she take Sabine, who is a hothead and kind of ineffective in a lot
right.
of
Because she
ways?
did meet Luke in Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
So, uh, that's a good point. They need to bring Luke in at some point. He doesn't have to be a main character, but he does have to pop in because otherwise, like, they're all around in that time period. She has so in the movie or in Ahsoka 2, there has to be some connection with Luke because it makes no sense. He's there.
He's
and-
there, he's young, he's
yes,
powerful.
he's at his best
So
at
why
that
is he
point.
not
Yeah,
assisting Ahsoka in this damn near impossible mission
right.
of trying to stop Thrawn?
Hey, I've been all for him being there. Um, if they got to have him come in Ahsoka 2 or the movie. They have to. You could chalk this up to, well, they were acting quick. Come on, let's go. And they went out and then we get Luke. If they grab Luke soon, it'll be all right. But if they never get Luke, it's going to be a mistake. They have to get Luke. And that's why I'm glad they mentioned Leia a couple times because she's involved at this point. So having C-3PO come on her behalf, I liked that
Hmm.
because that would make sense.
That was really Anthony Daniels too.
I didn't know till after. That
He
was cool.
donned the costume one last time.
That's awesome because he's what? He's got to be in his
Oh, he's
70s.
got to be absolutely.
Yeah. I loved that. And by the way, since we mentioned that, I loved that little council thing. And seeing Mon Mothma again, who we saw in Andor, and obviously she's been in other stuff. Um, and that the Asian senator or whoever he is,
Yeah, freaking politician.
yeah, standard like politician that like you're supposed to hate him. There's a similar character, and I was just talking about this with Donovan in the Heir to the Empire books. He's a Bothan race, and he kind of does the same thing. So there's similarities to Heir to the Empire. It's like they're loosely adapting it with all the Thrawn stuff, with that. So I hope they, in the movie, they bring in Han and Leia just for a scene or two, and then Luke needs to be in it for a little bit longer than them. You have to have everybody. You can have Ahsoka, you can have the other female characters. Yeah, that's fine. But bring Luke in too.
Yeah,
Because,
they're gonna have to because it wouldn't make much sense for them
yeah,
to do all of this fighting and
right,
Luke isn't there. He's
right.
just like, what's he doing?
Yeah,
He's not training Grogu,
yeah,
so what is he doing?
yeah. Bring Luke in and, might as well bring Grogu in too because he'd be in that point. I'm sure they'll stick him in the movie for sure. Um, but yeah, exciting to see where it's going. Like, I'm a lot more, as much as I'm an apologist for Star Wars, I think we're in a better space now than we were 3 or 4 years ago. You know,
They almost messed up with season 3 of Mando.
yeah, season three of Mando was up and down. This was better than three of Mando for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that was cool to see.
Except for the last episode. The last episode
Yeah,
of Mando season 3 was good.
yeah.
Um, and that is one thing I'll say. The last episode of this I thought was kind of weak. For the last 30 minutes, all you saw was this.
Well,
Everybody looking up into the sky and just
I do have one big problem with the finale of Ahsoka though, because we start off with Balin and his apprentice. Kind of my English narrative side. We start with them, and then they're like not in the last episode. We get like a shot of them at the end. They should have been more involved because they were so integral at the beginning.
yeah, it's like they really fizzled out. Those first 3 or 4
Yeah,
episodes, they were heavily involved. Then
yeah,
they were an afterthought.
yeah. That was my
Um,
biggest problem. Like
and
I
then
was
he
like, ah,
basically told her, like he cut the leash, you go do your thing because I have something else I'm gonna
yes.
do. Um,
So yeah,
I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. But just like Star Wars, all the really cool stuff they don't care about, and they promote all the lame stuff, like space whales.
well, I don't know. I mean, maybe,
They
I
didn't
don't
have
know.
to do space whales. They didn't have
Maybe
to do it.
space is water. I don't know.
They didn't have
You
to
have
like
spaceships.
they didn't need to have the space whales at all. How
They
about just let them find a piece of the MacGuffin and just figure it out?
maybe they could have found a map to get to
Yeah, why
another
not?
one. Oh, and one quick thing. They do show Ray Stevenson's character on a statue at the end, like kind of like a rock formation. And that's basically like the Mortis gods, like lowercase g. They're involved in the Clone Wars. It's basically like this elder and he has a son and a daughter and they like kind of shepherd the force and the son is evil, the girl's good, and in the Clone Wars episode they all pass away. So maybe Balin is trying to discover the origins of the Force and go deep because he says he likes the idea of the Jedi.
Hmm.
He just doesn't agree with what they did, which is a cool line that
There,
they have memes all over
there's a
the
little
place.
YouTube short of
Uh-huh.
that where he's saying it, and the question was, "What did you think about Book of Boba Fett?" And he's like, "I like the idea of it."
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, that's a fun little meme that's running around.
Okay, well, I think that's it for now. We are going to end this, and we're gonna continue filming for our video that you're gonna see next week. So, for now, we'll catch you on the next one. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, all that good stuff.
May the
Dominic?
Force be with you.
All right, we'll see y'all in a week.